The Coral Castle. You were driving south on US Route 1 through Homestead, Florida. Somewhere between the gas stations and the strip malls, you turn off onto a small road and suddenly the world changes. Ahead of you, in the flat subtropical heat, is a wall. It is made of coral. The individual blocks weigh 2 tons apiece, and they are fitted together without mortar, without machinery, without any record of how they got there. A sign says the entire structure weighs 1,100 tons. You look for the construction machinery. There is none. Edward Lycurgus built it alone. Between 1923 and 1951, the 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant quarried, carved, and moved every single block without a crane, without a bulldozer, without recorded assistance. His tools, recovered after his death in 1951, were hand-fabricated from junkyard scrap metal. The largest stones, 9-ton coral blocks used for a crescent-shaped wall, were moved to their positions over an unwitnessed distance of 10 miles. Neighbors who watched for years reported that they never once saw him work. He would stop whenever he sensed anyone watching. He told the few people he spoke to that he had discovered the secret of how the pyramids of Egypt were built. Investigators from the 1980s onward, including engineers from the University of Miami, analyzed the site looking for evidence of the methods. They found no tool marks consistent with industrial equipment. They found no buried infrastructure. What they found instead was a system of handmade block and tackle equipment, tripods fashioned from telephone poles, and a home-welded Sweet 16 flywheel that no one can fully account for. In 2023, physicist Robert Connolly published a structural analysis in the Journal of Scientific Exploration, noting that the tolerances Lycurgus achieved, sub-centimeter joints in multi-ton coral blocks, exceed what modern hobbyist construction would typically manage. The castle includes a 9-ton gate so perfectly balanced on its center of gravity that a single child can push it open with one finger. It functioned this way for decades until the bearing that Lycurgus machined himself finally wore out in 1986. The replacement, fitted by professionals with access to modern machine tools, has never achieved the same frictionless balance. You stand in front of the gate and push it with your fingertip, and it moves. The question the researchers keep running into isn't whether it's possible. Clearly, it was done. The question is how one person with scrap metal and no witnesses understood something about leverage, weight distribution, and material behavior that the rest of the industrialized world was working with machinery to approximate. What he knew, he took with him.
To Sacsayhuamán Walls. You are at 11,500 feet above sea level in the Andes, and your lungs are registering the altitude before your eyes register what you are looking at. The walls in front of you are made of stone. That much is obvious. What is not obvious, what will not become obvious even when you walk up to them and press your palm flat against the surface, is how the stones fit together. There is no mortar. There is no gap. You slide a sheet of paper along the joint between 2 blocks and it stops. The seam is tighter than the paper. The stones at Sacsayhuamán weigh up to 200 tons. Some of them were quarried at sites 22 miles away across a river over terrain with no straight path. Jean-Pierre Protzen, a professor of architecture at UC Berkeley, spent 20 years studying the site and attempting to replicate Inca stone-cutting techniques using the tools available at the time: bronze chisels and stone hammers. His 2020 summary of that research, published in the Journal of the Society of Architectural Historians, concluded that he could partially explain the surface finishing technique. He could not explain the transport. The Spanish chronicler Pedro de Cieza de León, writing in 1553, recorded that the Inca oral tradition itself described the stones as having been walked to their positions by a giant, a figure the priests of the time said had the power to command stone to move. Protzen and his colleagues treated this as mythological notation for a lost engineering method. They have not yet found the method. The problem is not just the weight, it is the precision. Each block in the outer wall is a unique polygon, not a rectangle, not a standard shape, but an irregular form with up to 12 sides that interlocks exactly with its neighbors on all faces. Modern structural engineers who have studied the design note that this polygonal interlocking creates a structure that is more earthquake resistant than a mortared square block wall. During the 2010 Haiti earthquake, which destroyed most of Port-au-Prince, nearby Inca stonework at other sites showed no damage. The engineering principle is sound. The execution at that scale, with those tools, at that altitude, has not been fully replicated. You run your finger along the joint. The stone is cold. The altitude is making your temples throb. Somewhere in the Andes, 22 miles from here, there is a quarry where these stones came from. And somewhere between the quarry and this wall, the knowledge of how they got here was lost with the people who moved them.
The Longyou Grottoes. In 1992, a farmer in Longyou County, Zhejiang Province, China, grew tired of a pond on his land that had never shown a bottom. He bought a pump. After 17 days, the pump ran out of water to remove, and what remained was not the rocky floor of a natural lake. It was the entrance to a carved room. He pumped the adjacent pond, another room. He pumped 36 ponds, 36 rooms. The Longyou Grottoes are 36 massive underground chambers hand-carved from siltstone. Total interior volume over 30,000 cubic meters. The walls are covered with a consistent pattern of parallel chisel marks spaced 60 centimeters apart and angled at exactly 45 degrees, which run unbroken across every surface, including the ceilings. The pattern is so uniform that researchers from Zhejiang University, who published a full structural analysis in 2010, initially believed it must have been machine-made. It was not. Every mark is a hand tool. The grottos are carbon dated to the Qin dynasty over 2,000 years ago, and in 2,000 plus years of Chinese historical record, one of the most comprehensively documented civilizations in human history, there is not a single written reference to their construction. No imperial decree commissioning them, no engineering record, no mention in any administrative document, no legend, nothing. Yang Hongsun, an architectural historian of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, estimates that excavating the grottos to this specification would have required 1,000 workers working continuously for 6 years. A labor force of that scale, operating for that long, on a project of that size, in an era of centralized record-keeping under the Qin dynasty, would typically leave traces everywhere. There are none. Archaeologists who have descended into the grottos describe a specific quality to the space. The ceilings are shaped to a consistent arc, the floors are flat and level, and the pillars left in the rock to support the structure are positioned with structural intuition that prevents collapse. The rooms are not random, they were designed, they were built, and then they were flooded, or perhaps hidden, and not mentioned again for 2,000 years. The pump that drained them is still running. The question of why they were built has no current answer.
The Lycurgus Cup. You are holding a glass cup. The cup is green. You know this because you can see it. The reflected light off its surface is distinctly green, a muted sea green with flecks of gold. You turn it so a light source is behind it rather than in front, and something shifts. The cup is now red, deep red, arterial. The same cup, the same glass, the light changed direction and the color changed completely. The Lycurgus Cup was made by Roman craftsmen in the 4th century CE. It depicts the death of the Thracian king Lycurgus being strangled by vines, a mythological scene rendered in carved relief on the outer surface. It was purchased by the British Museum in 1958. For several decades, it sat in collections as a remarkable example of Roman glassmaking. Then, in 1990, scientists at the British Museum subjected it to electron microscopy. Inside the glass are gold and silver nanoparticles. They are 50 nanometers in diameter, roughly 1,000th the width of a human hair. They are distributed with a precision that produces a plasmonic effect. When light passes through the glass, it shifts its wavelength toward red. When light reflects off the surface, it stays green. The Roman craftsmen who made this cup were doing nanotechnology in the 4th century. Ian Freestone, a materials scientist at University College London, published the definitive analysis in 2007 in Gold Bulletin, confirming that the nanoparticle size and distribution are too precise to be accidental. Someone controlled the composition of the glass, the ratio of gold to silver, the firing temperature, the cooling rate, with a precision that produced the plasmonic effect intentionally. Or they stumbled onto the effect through trial and error and reproduced it across multiple pieces. The British Museum holds one. Similar dichroic fragments have been found at Roman sites across the Mediterranean. What has never been found is the recipe. No Roman text describes how to make glass that changes color. No surviving workshop shows the tools. The cup exists as the sole coherent proof that someone in the 4th century understood something about light and matter that the rest of the world would not have a theoretical framework for until Richard Feynman's 1959 lecture on nanotechnology. You put the cup down. You turn the light on, you turn the light off. Green, red, green, red. The Romans made this.
The Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek. The quarry is not far from the temple. You can walk the path between them in a few hours through the Lebanese hills. At the quarry, lying in the rock where it was carved 2,000 years ago, is a stone that was never moved. It is 21 meters long. It weighs 1,000 tons. It is called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, though no one knows why. It was abandoned before it was ever transported, perhaps because it was too heavy even for whoever built Baalbek, or perhaps because the project was interrupted before it was needed. The Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek in Lebanon was built on a foundation platform called the Trilithon. 3 stones in that foundation weigh 800 tons apiece. They are fitted into place at a height of 7 meters above ground, with sub-centimeter joints, no mortar, and a precision of positioning that modern structural survey confirms is within millimeters of level. In the year 60 CE, when the Romans were constructing this temple using the most advanced engineering in the Western world, the largest Roman crane could lift approximately 6 tons. Daniel Lohmann, an architectural historian at RWTH Aachen University, published a 2010 study in the journal Architectura proposing a lever and platform ramp system that could theoretically move 800-ton blocks using rope, timber, and sufficient labor. He built a scale model. The model worked. The full-scale test has never been completed because no one has yet identified a practical quarry-to-platform route that accommodates the required infrastructure for an 800-ton object in movement. The problem is not only transport, but placement. The trilithon blocks sit at height, positioned against adjacent blocks with the kind of joint precision that requires fine adjustment during placement. Adjusting an 800-ton block during placement, lifting it fractionally, shifting it laterally by centimeters, demands a mechanism that both lifts and steers. Lohmann's lever system provides the lift. The steering remains unresolved. The stone of the pregnant woman is still in the quarry. Tourists lean against it for photographs. The stone does not move. Whatever machinery the builders of Baalbek used, and someone used something, because those 800-ton blocks are up there, it worked well enough to place them with millimeter precision, and it was sophisticated enough that it left no trace. You can see the blocks from the road. They sit up there in the Lebanese sun, patient and unexplained, while the world below them figures out what to do with them.
The Iron Pillar of Delhi. It is standing in the courtyard of the Qutub Minar complex in Delhi, India. It has been standing there since approximately 402 CE. It is made of wrought iron. It is 7 meters tall and weighs about 6 tons. And in 1600 years, through monsoon seasons, through the humidity of northern India, through the dust and acid rain of a modern megacity, it has not rusted. Researchers first began seriously studying the pillar's corrosion resistance in the 20th century, assuming there must be some unusual alloy composition. R. Balasubramaniam, a materials scientist at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, published the answer in the journal Current Science in 2000. The pillar's surface has formed an extremely thin, roughly 1/20th of a millimeter, layer of iron hydrogen phosphate hydrate, a compound called mesowite. This passive layer, once formed, prevents further oxidation by blocking moisture and oxygen from reaching the underlying iron. The mechanism is real. The problem is the precondition. Creating mesowite requires cycling the iron through a specific range of temperature and humidity repeatedly, in a way that allows the phosphate compounds in the iron to migrate to the surface and form the protective layer. Balasubramaniam concluded that the ancient Indian smelting process, using specific high phosphorus iron ores with specific charcoal fuel ratios at specific temperatures, inadvertently produced exactly the conditions required for mesowite formation, inadvertently or not. The pillar's iron composition is approximately 0.15% phosphorus, much higher than modern wrought iron and consistent with ore sources in the Bastar region of central India. The quality of the forge welding, the pillar is a single piece made from many smaller welded sections, is also anomalous. Corrosion engineer A.V. Baduri examined the weld joints in 1998 and published a finding in the Indian Journal of Engineering that the welds show no evidence of any slag inclusion, a defect that is extremely difficult to avoid with pre-industrial forge welding. The ancient smiths appear to know exactly what they were doing. Tradition says the pillar was erected to commemorate a military victory by the Gupta Emperor Chandragupta II.
Tradition also says that if you stand with your back to the pillar, clasp your hands behind you, and your fingers touch, your wish will be granted. The government eventually put a fence around it to protect the iron from the corrosive oils in human skin. The pillar does not need the fence. After 1,600 years, it is doing fine.
Newgrange. It is December 21st. You are inside a stone tunnel in County Meath, Ireland, in total darkness. The tunnel is 19 meters long. It narrows as it approaches the chamber at the center. You are inside a mound of earth and stone that is 85 meters in diameter. The mound was built 5,200 years ago. That is not a metaphor or an approximation. The radiocarbon dates have been confirmed repeatedly by multiple labs. This structure predates Stonehenge by 5 centuries. It predates the Great Pyramid of Giza by 5 centuries. At 8:58 a.m. on the winter solstice, a narrow shaft of sunlight enters through a small opening above the entrance passage, a feature called a roof box, specifically designed to admit only the lowest, most horizontal angle of winter solstice light. The light travels down the 19-meter passage and illuminates the innermost chamber for exactly 17 minutes. Then it is gone, and the chamber returns to darkness for another year. Michael O'Kelly, an archaeologist from University College Cork, rediscovered the alignment in 1967, after the roof box had been sealed by a stone for centuries. His publication of the finding in Antiquity that year sparked a reassessment of Neolithic astronomical knowledge. The alignment requires that the builders of Newgrange knew the precise angle of the winter solstice sunrise, not approximately, but to within a fraction of a degree, and that they oriented the passage to that angle before a single stone was laid. This is not a coincidence. A 19-meter passage aligned to an angle of arc that only occurs for 17 minutes per year does not happen by accident. Astronomer Tom Ray at the Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies published an analysis in 2006 in Astronomy and Geophysics, noting that the alignment has remained accurate for 5,200 years. The slight precession of the Earth's axis over millennia means the solstice sunrise angle has shifted fractionally, but the builders appear to have anticipated this by making the roof box slightly wider than strictly necessary for the current alignment. The light still enters. Ray concluded that the builders' understanding of precession cannot be fully explained by current models of Neolithic knowledge. You are standing in the chamber when the light begins. It starts as a line on the floor. It widens slowly as the sun rises. For 17 minutes, the interior of this tomb, built for the dead, designed for a moment that happens once a year, is illuminated with the precision of an instrument. Then it ends. Outside, in the field, the winter morning continues. The cattle graze. The road carries cars east toward Dublin. Inside, in the dark, something was measured 5,200 years ago to within a tolerance that is still holding.
The Moai. The island is 64 square miles. There are 900 statues. The average statue weighs 14 tons. The largest weighs 82 tons. The quarry where they were carved is on one side of the island. The stone platforms where they were placed, ahus, facing inland with their backs to the sea, are distributed around the island's perimeter, some of them 18 kilometers from the quarry. And for 200 years, from the moment European sailors first documented them in 1722, the question of how they were moved was answered by generations of researchers with versions of the same shrug.
We don't know. Carl Lipo, an anthropologist at Binghamton University, and Terry Hunt at the University of Oregon cracked it in 2011. Or rather, the Rapa Nui people cracked it, and Lipo and Hunt proved it. The Rapa Nui oral tradition had always described the Moai as having walked to their ahus. European scholars had categorized this as mythology. Lipo and Hunt constructed a replica Moai and used 3 ropes, 2 to rock it side to side, 1 to prevent it from falling forward, operated by teams of people to demonstrate that the statue could be moved upright in a waddling walking motion across uneven terrain. Their 2011 paper in the Journal of Archaeological Science included video documentation. The statue walked. The oral tradition was literal. The engineering was not lost. It was preserved in the words the descendants used to describe it. What the Western analytical framework called mythology was a technical memory. The question that opens back up from this resolution is slightly larger than the original one. 14 tons walked upright by rope teams across 18 kilometers of volcanic terrain 900 times, and then stood upright on stone platforms oriented inland, positioned with a level and alignment that GPS surveys have confirmed is non-random. The eyes of the Moai, when they were present, were oriented toward specific astronomical positions. Joan Ann Van Tilburg, director of the Easter Island Statue Project at UCLA, has surveyed all 900 statues and found that their distributions, orientations, and sizes follow patterns that suggest a coordinated cosmological framework. The island is 2,300 miles from the nearest inhabited land. The people who built these statues arrived in outrigger canoes. They brought with them an understanding of stone, rope mechanics, and astronomical alignment that produced 900 statues that could walk, and did. What they called it, they told their children. What we called it, we put in a question mark. Both were the same thing. Derinkuyu. In 1963, a man in the Nevşehir province of Turkey was renovating his house. He knocked down a wall. Behind it was a room he hadn't known was there. He stepped through the opening and found another room, then a corridor, then a staircase going down. He called the authorities. Archaeologists arrived and began descending. Derinkuyu is an underground city. It descends 18 stories into the volcanic tuff of the Cappadocian Plateau. At full capacity, it was designed to shelter 20,000 people, their livestock, their food stores, their wine presses, their oil lamps, their schools, and their churches. The ventilation shafts, there are over 50 of them, running from the surface to the deepest levels, are engineered to deliver fresh air to every inhabited level while preventing the smoke from thousands of cooking fires from accumulating. At the entrance to each floor, there is a circular stone door shaped like a millstone that can be rolled across the passage from the inside to seal it against attack. The stones weigh between 200 and 500 kilograms. They fit their door frames with a precision that allows one person to roll them. The city was rediscovered in 1963. The date of its construction is estimated at between the 7th and the 2nd millennia BCE, based on the style of the carved chambers and comparison with other Cappadocian rock-cut sites. That range is a span of 5,000 years of uncertainty. Archaeologists cannot pinpoint the date more precisely because there is nothing datable inside it. No bones, no organic material, no coins. There is also no historical record. The Hittites, who controlled this region from 1400–1200 BCE, left extensive documentation of their civilization. No Hittite text mentions an underground city. The Phrygians who followed them, no mention. The Persians, no mention. Derinkuyu appears in no ancient source. Omar Demir, a geographer at Aksaray University who has studied the site extensively, has proposed in multiple publications that the absence of historical record suggests the city was built before the major literate civilizations of the region and was already ancient and perhaps abandoned by the time those civilizations began writing things down. The man who knocked down the wall in 1963 reported he found it while looking for extra storage space. He got 18 stories of it. There are 36 other known underground cities in the Cappadocian region, smaller but connected by tunnel systems to Derinkuyu. The total underground network, as currently mapped, suggests that the population who built this was not hiding temporarily. They were building a civilization downward. Why they stopped and what happened to them when they did is not in any document that has been found. The Vitrified Forts. There are more than 200 of them scattered across the hilltops of Scotland, Ireland, and France. Iron Age hill forts, built somewhere between 700 BCE and 400 CE, made of stacked dry stone. At most of these sites, the stone walls have been melted, not collapsed, not eroded, melted, fused into a solid mass of glass-like material, a vitrified stone that is harder and denser than the original rock. The temperatures required to vitrify granite or basalt range from 800 to 1100 degrees Celsius. A modern glass furnace operates at approximately 1400 degrees. These walls were reached with pre-industrial fire. Ian Ralston, a professor of archaeology at the University of Edinburgh, has studied vitrified forts for over 40 years. His 2006 book, Celtic Fortifications, documents 150-plus verified sites and includes material analysis from multiple labs. The vitrification is real. X-ray diffraction confirms the crystalline restructuring. The mechanism, despite 4 decades of Ralston's work and contributions from chemists, material scientists, and experimental archaeologists, remains unresolved as to whether it was intentional or accidental. The intentional theory, the builders understood that fusing the stone walls would make them structurally stronger and impervious to battering. Experiments by archaeologist Graham Cavers in 2014, published in Proceedings of the Society of Antiquities of Scotland, demonstrated that vitrification does increase a wall's resistance to percussion attack. A vitrified wall cannot be dismantled, stone by stone. The accidental theory, the vitrification resulted from enemies burning the forts during conquest, with the fire consuming the wooden scaffolding and roof structures packed into the walls, a common Iron Age construction technique called timber lacing. Calculations published by Nick Card, an archaeologist with the Orkney Research Center for Archaeology in 2019, suggest that a timber-laced dry stone wall, fully ignited, could theoretically generate sufficient heat to vitrify the stone. But controlled experiments by Ralston and his colleagues at Edinburgh have never achieved consistent vitrification by this method. The conditions required are specific. Achieving them at 200-plus sites across multiple countries, across multiple centuries, requires either a widespread deliberate technique or a very specific and repeatable accident. You are standing on a Scottish hill fort in the late afternoon. The wind is coming off the firth. The stone under your hand is glassy, cold, slightly slick where the vitrification is most complete. Below the glass, the original stone. Someone made a fire hot enough to do this, or a fire was made for them, or both. Ralston has studied 200 of these forts for 40 years and has not resolved it. The glass is real. The answer is not.